Guys, I want to talk to you guys today about 8 investing mistakes that regular people typically make. And we make these mistakes all the time, guys. And so I want to have the conversation on this video or this live, just kind of wrap to you guys as we enter. It's a Sunday today, and we're about to enter into a new week for an investor. It's a new week of investing, a new week of maybe seeing your money grow. And I just want to add some oomph to your week in terms of investing. Okay. Do me a favor, guys, as you come in here, smash the like button for me. Let me know that you're here. Let me know what city, what state, what country, wherever you check it in from. All right. So let's have this conversation. 8 investing mistakes that regular people always make. Right. And when I say regular people, I'm talking about ordinary investors. Ordinary investors make these mistakes on a regular basis. And ordinary investors is really who I'm talking to on this channel quite a bit because I want the regular investor, the regular ordinary person to get better with their investment choices, right? So I said, let's just do an impromptu. Let's jump on here and talk about investing because guess what? A new week is coming. Now, last week, we saw the NASDAQ, we saw the Dow, we saw the S&P, all of them hit all-time highs. I think the S&P went over 5,200, which is huge, right? That's an all-time high that we saw last week. We saw a little bit of pullback come Friday, right? We saw a little bit of pullback, a little bit of slowdown. But guys, the stock market is killing the game. And I think the stock market there's a little bit of overpricing going on, a little bit of overvaluing going on. And I think that can be an issue down the road. But for us investors, we're doing well right now. But the key is when you're investing, don't get too high during the good times when everything looks great because there's going to be a downtime. There's going to be ebb and flow, ebb and flow. So you got to be careful as an investor of kicking back and saying, oh, we're doing well. You got to be thinking about some of the mistakes that you could be making or have made to avoid. Listen, a small mistake in 2025 could be the difference of $50,000 by the time 2035 comes around. So you want to avoid the mistakes that we always see with regular investors, not these big institutional investors, but me and you, right? We make mistakes on a regular basis, and I want to have a talk about it. I want to go over some things. Let me know where you guys are coming from in the chat. Tell me where you're from and make sure you can hear me okay. Make sure my volume's okay. So, hey, we got somebody already from Louisiana. Good to have you here from Louisiana. Let's talk about investing. If you're an investor, yes. If you're not an investor, no biggie. Don't worry about it, right? I want to show you some things about investing that you want to be careful about, right? So let's jump into it, guys. And, oh, hey, Maryland's in the house. Hello, MJA. Houston is checking in. Kareem, I think it's Kareem or Kareem. Houston's in the house. Good to have you down there in H-Town, right? So good to have you. If you can, let me know, guys. Give me a thumbs up so I can know that you can hear me okay. Make sure my volume and my voice is projecting right. Texas is checking in. Nolans, is that Nolans or New Orleans? It could be Nolans, right? Is in the house. East St. Louis is here, right? Been there quite a bit on the east side of the St. Louis of the river there. Charlotte, North Carolina's in the house. St. Louis is here. St. Louis / East St. Louis. Can hear you from Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi. I like it down there in Jackson. All right, so we got London. UK is in the house too. Good to have you all the way from the UK. MX and Tennessee is in the house. Michigan's here. Good with audio. Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate it. Las Vegas is in the house. Appreciate it. Thanks for the thumbs up. What we're talking about, guys, so you know, is 8 investing mistakes. Now, one of the things I want to point out to you flat out, point blank, when we have this talk, is I am not a huge individual stock investor. I have some individual stock, right? 20 different stocks, 25, 30. But that's not where the bulk of my investing is. The bulk of my investing is index funds, ETFs, probably more so ETF than index funds, but I got some of both. But that's where the bulk is because I don't like individual stocks. And I'm going to tell you why. I'll talk a little bit about that later on here, guys. But what is holding us back as individual investors? What are the mistakes that you've noticed or you made trying to be an individual investor out here, trying to get this investment going, trying to build money, trying to make money, right? It can be hard for us, right? The first thing is this. The first thing we tend to do as regular individual investors, individual people who want to invest, the first thing we do where we mess up and we make a huge mistake is we overcomplicate investing, right? We think that investing is some, really hard, complicated process. We have to know this and know that. And it doesn't really have to be that way, right? Sometimes, guys, there's a reason why money is not taught to us, most of us, at a young age by an institution, right? When I say an institution, I mean the educational institution in America, I can say. I don't know about the UK or Brazil or London or Argentina or anything, but all I can talk about is America in this regard. The education system does not teach us about money, specifically investing, right? They don't go into detail about that like they go into detail about George Washington or about the Constitution or about reading, writing, arithmetic, right? They don't go into money, although money is math, right? But the problem with that is it makes money a mystery for a lot of us, and we think money is complicated. We think money has to be complex in order to win with money. And listen, money can be very simple. Investing can be extremely simple, right? I said I don't like individual stocks. Why did I lead off and say that? Because I wanted to explain to you why. I don't want the complication of having to understand companies, read companies, analyze data points on companies, analyze profit loss statements. I don't want to know all of the holdings, all of the real estate that Disney owns. I don't want to know the balance sheet of AT&T. I don't want to know all the specifics. I don't want to make it complicated. So what I do is I invest in ETFs and index funds. I look for 5 or 10 different measures on ETFs and index funds, and that's what guides my decision on which ETF to buy. I don't have to look at the quarterly earnings or the quarterly statements, the 10Qs of individual companies. I don't want that complication for the most part in my life. I'll do it for the individual companies that I invest in. But other than that, I don't want to have 100 different companies that I'm analyzing and tracking on a regular basis. I don't want it to be complicated. And we, individual investors, we make it more complicated. And I think it's because we're taught that it's a complicated thing. We're taught that investing is hard. It's difficult. Only a few can do it. Only, wealthy people who understand and have accountants. It ain't got to be that complicated, right? Keep that thing simple. Okay. Making money in America is not very complicated. I always talk about the big three, right? The big three: stock market investing, real estate, building a business. That's it. That's it. If you just dig into 2 of those 3, you good. You good, right? You own a little bit of real estate, have some investments in the stock market. You good. You don't have to do and have everything and understand everything. I understand Forex and Ethereum and, Shiba Inu, and you ain't got to do all that. But we think that it's complicated. It's not very complicated. Now, they use complicated terms, right, and acronyms to make it seem. They don't do it to make it seem, but they dig all into it, and it ends up seeming that it's difficult or it's complicated. But I'm guaranteeing you guys, you ain't got to make it complicated. That's one thing that avoid that mistake of making it more complicated than it was. What I always do, guys, is when I read something that's really complicated or sounds complicated or foreign to me, I read it and then I think about it. I don't just read it all and don't think about it. This is just a little trick for reading comprehension. If you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what is dividends and what is the different types of stocks? What does a split stock mean? And when you're going through these terms of understanding the stock market and how to invest money, don't just go through a whole bunch of it. Go through a little bit, think about it, and then put it in your own words back to yourself. Just a little trick that I do, right? If I read something really, you're trying to figure out, well, how to trade options and what is a put and all you do is go through it, go through a little small chunk of it, and then stop. Don't keep reading a whole bunch of stuff so you can really get confused. Just read a little bit, stop and think for a second, and then tell it back to yourself in your own words. Then when you do that, then move on and keep reading. And then stop every now and then to do that. Just a little trick when you're reading something complicated and you're trying to learn something, right? But we don't have to make this thing complicated. We don't have to make building wealth complicated. We don't have to make the stock market complicated. They use words that sound complicated, but if we slow down and break them down in our own words, it becomes more easy and understanding, more palatable, more digestible for us to get, right? Somebody said, all right, so looks like there's somebody that we got to kick out, right? Back. We got somebody out of here. You got to kick somebody out sometimes. Somebody says something about stocks and investing. What's up? Hey, what's up, Alexi? How you doing? Good afternoon from Cecil County, Maryland. Good to have you in here. I appreciate you here. Yes, I'm here live, guys. H-Town's in the house, and we got Maryland in the house. We got a lot of folks here. So what I'm doing is I'm going over 8 investing mistakes that regular people always seem to make. And the first one is we complicate that thing. We ain't got to complicate it. Number 2 is this, guys, and I'm scrolling here looking at some stuff. Number 2 is we spend a lot of time steady watching the markets. And what happens as a regular investor when we're sitting there watching the markets and focusing and focusing, what happens is we end up getting a little bit emotional. We get a little nervous, right? We're watching something happen. Sometimes I use the analogy of fantasy football, right? I used to play do the fantasy football thing quite a bit. And I was on edge every single game, and and I wasn't able to relax, and because I was so focused on what was happening. So as regular investors, sometimes we get so far into watching the ticker symbols, watching how our ETFs and our stocks are doing on a daily basis, going up, going down, going up, going down. And we get so focused, it makes us nervous, and we get a little stressed, we get a little anxiety, and we're not able to really enjoy the rest of the day sometimes, right? Because, man, the Dow went down, or the S&P went down by so many points. Oh, my gosh, what happened to my money? And so we're so worried about that, right? So just be careful, guys. That's a mistake. It's a mistake because it causes worry. It causes stress. It causes anxiety. It causes you to maybe take actions and do something that you don't want to do, that you maybe shouldn't do in terms of your investments, right? So you got to be real careful about that so that you don't get too hyped when things go well. You don't get too down when things ain't going well, right? Kind of steady. All right. Number 3, the third thing is this, guys. A big mistake that a lot of us do, especially regular investors, is we tend to and you can tell me if you do this. Let me know in the chat below if you do this. We tend to, when it comes to investing in the stock market, we tend to chase trends, right? We tend to chase the latest thing. And what triggers this a lot of times is we're watching the news. We're watching Bloomberg report. We're looking at the social media, and we're watching CNN, or we're watching Fox News, or we're watching MSNBC, and they have a business report to come on. And we see something, we say, oh man, so-and-so is laying off workers. That company must not be doing good. And so now we end up chasing something that we heard, or it's a trend, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you chase trends. Trends can be good. But there's many times when we're chasing a trend that we're not fully informed on in terms of a stock or business, a company. We're not fully informed on it, but we heard some people talking about it over here. Or we saw somebody post about it right here. Or we saw, some internet guru, you name whoever you watch on YouTube. We see them that mention it. And we say, what? They mentioned that. Oh, man. Wow. Okay. That must be doing pretty good. Let me go out and buy a couple of shares of Toyota. Let me go out and buy a couple of shares. And we end up chasing a trend, or we see a trend in a certain sector, right? And we say, man, look at that, man, the EVs, right? the EV, the electrical vehicle market, man, that's doing well. I need to go out more. I need to go out and buy that. Boom, let me buy that. Let me buy that. Let me go out and get some Tesla. Let me go out and get some whatever, semiconductor ETF. You got to be careful about that. So the way you be careful about that is do your research, right? So I don't want to tell you just the mistakes. I'm going to tell you how to avoid the mistakes, right? So you got to do your research. Don't just chase a trend because you heard some people talking about a stock or you heard some people talking about a particular sector that was going to be booming. Oh, healthcare is going to be booming. Let me go get some healthcare. Oh, pharmaceutical, booming. Let me go get some pharmaceutical. You got to be careful about that. That's what we tend to do. We tend to not do our research. That's a mistake. We chase a trend and we fail to actually follow up and do the research on the stock. Do the research on the company. Do the research on where the company's going. What is the CEO thinking? What is the latest purchases? What is the actual balance sheet look like? Because you can get news that sounds good. Yeah, they're doing well. We think, but we haven't looked at their 10Q or their 10K, or right. We haven't checked out their quarterly earnings, so we don't know. We don't realize that the company stated very clearly on their earnings report that they were going to be, unloading 100, reducing their physical their physical footprint and reducing it by this because they're actually going to be jumping into this market over here. We don't know any of that because we just followed a trend that we saw or heard and didn't do our own research, right? Now, when you are an institutional investor, right? When you're Fannie Mae, right? Then Fannie Mae got a team of 50 people who's doing the research for them. But when it's just me and you, the regular investor, we don't have nobody doing the research. So we got to stop what we're doing before we make that purchase of that stock. And we got to do our research, do the background, check into the company, right? And a lot of people, they fail to do that. So you got to avoid chasing trends, right? When you're investing. That leads to the next one. The next one is following bad advice on social media, right? Following bad advice on social media. Come on. I could name the channels, the popular channels, right? I'm not going to name them because I don't like to throw dirt on channels, right? Other YouTube channels. I like to give a shout out to other YouTube channels because I'm trying to lift people up. So I don't like to throw any other channel on YouTube under the bus with what they talk about and the advice they give. Just not my thing. Now, for some people, they do. I mean, that's their thing. That's what they do. That's their thing on YouTube to help people, right? And the guy that comes to mind is my man JT the Pocket Watcher. So JT, that's his thing, right? He's looking at and dissecting what other people are doing and saying to bring it to you. For me, that's not my channel. It's not my lane. So I'm not going to bring down a channel right now. Well, I can tell you there are channels that are very, very popular that give bad advice on a regular basis. I see it, right? You got to be careful about that. Following bad advice about investing from social media, right? You cannot evaluate a stock based on a social media post, right? Or an article you read on the internet. That ain't how you evaluate companies when you're investing. Please avoid bad investing advice from social media. Somebody makes a comment. People do this a lot. They read through the comment section of a post and somebody says something in the comment section. I don't care if you're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X. I don't care where you are. Pinterest, don't matter. You see a comment and you say, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Really? So that company, XXX, whatever it could be, right? That company, maybe not XXX, but XXR, right? That company, right? That company is what? They did that? Oh my gosh. Let me go out and buy a share, 2 shares, 5 shares. And all you saw was a comment. Don't do it. The only thing you should be getting from social media on posts, on social media articles, whatever, is inspiration to do your own research. That's the only thing you should be getting. Not necessarily advice, but inspiration to go do your own research. right? That's where a lot of us make a mistake as regular investors, right? Yes, avoid chasing trends. Absolutely. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. Glad you're here, Aaron. Good to have you here. Christian Bowie, good to have you here. Good to have you here as well. All right, so listen, number 5. Let's go to number 5. The fifth thing that you got to avoid as a regular investor who's investing in the stock market, investing in ETFs, investing in index funds, you have to avoid not giving your investments time to grow, right? You have to avoid being impatient with your money. Avoid being impatient with your investments. What happens to a lot of people is this, guys. We start investing, and after 3 or 4 years of investing, we don't see much. Or let's say we're putting money into our 401k or TSP, whatever you have, and you check the balance once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, and you just don't see much movement, right? It was $2,000, and then this year it's $3,000, and then 2 years from now you check it, it's $7,000, and then 3 years after that it's $15,000, and next thing you know you're saying, man, I've been putting into this thing for 10 years, and I only have $50,000, and I've been putting all this money. But here's what happens, guys. The power of compound interest. You got to let it work a little bit. You have to let it marinate. You have to let it actually go to work, right? And so what happens sometimes is it may take 10 years for you to get to $100,000 after putting 10% of your money in. It may take 10 years. But after that first 100,000, that first 200,000, compound interest goes crazy. A lot of times what happens is we don't stick around and keep our money in to see the compound interest go crazy, right? We get too antsy, right? We get too impatient, and we start expecting a harvest after just 6 months, okay? It don't happen that way when it comes to long-term investing. And as a regular investor, we're regular folks. We want to have a mindset of long-term investing, right? I talked yesterday or a couple days ago about the fact that when you're investing money, guys, and you want to grow money, grow wealth, you have to be a long-term thinker, right? You cannot be a short-term thinker who expects to get everything you're going to have and all the big harvest after 2 years of investing. We live in a microwave society, right? We live in a society where we see Bitcoin go from 40,000 to 50,000 in 2 months. That's not realistic in the real world of investing. And as regular investors, we got to know that. We got to stick it out for the long haul, and we got to be there for the long haul, right? So we got to make sure that we're not being too impatient with our investment, and we just let it roll. Let it roll. Don't pick and pull that out. Stop trying to time the market and start spending plenty of time in the market. That's how you win in terms of being a regular investor. You don't try to win and get it right now. It takes time. And a lot of times we're too impatient, right? We expect a baked potato to be ready in 4 minutes. When really for the last 500 years, 1,000 years, baked potatoes take at least 30 minutes, whether it's in the oven or sitting on top of the fire as a nomad society, as we all were 10,000 years ago, right? We expect baked potatoes to happen in 4 minutes today. And if it don't happen in 4 minutes, we upset, we mad, right? But baked potatoes take time in the real world of things. Baked potatoes being the metaphor for money, right? It takes time, right? Stop expecting the full chicken rotisserie to be done in 10 minutes when we're talking about investment. That's not how it works with investment, right? Investments follow the real world, which means things take time. Very important. We're too impatient. So give your investments some time to actually work. And listen, I hate to say guarantees because I don't like guaranteeing anything when it comes to investing, right? But believe me when I tell you, after you get your first 100,000, 150,000, compound interest gets really, really crazy, right? And it starts to work really crazy, right? Another mistake, right? I appreciate you guys being here, by the way. Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Good to have you here. I appreciate you here, Johnny. Let's see here. 0.75 is good rate. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. 0.75, good rate for account management for a financial advisor. Return to glory, I think, yes. I think 0.75 is not bad. Let's see here. Good afternoon from Olathe. We already said that. We got Coast, let's see, Roaster. India's checking in. Good to have you all the way from India. Good to have you. Let's see. Name of soccer. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. I'm not sure who that is, so we might have to go ahead and boot them out. Sometimes, guys, we get those trolls that step around here, guys. Let's see here. Emmett Smith. Yeah, I've heard that a lot before. Absolutely. All right, so let's keep going. And I'm just checking through the chats every now and then. Thanks a lot, Renate. I think that's it. The legend. Listen, in a second, drop a Q, and I'll answer your question. All right? Let's keep going. Another mistake that regular investors make. This is number 6, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is we invest money that we may need soon. I don't know what's a better way to say that. We invest money that we don't really have, right? This is a mistake that we made. You got to avoid this, right? And what happens is we end up investing money, but then we have some emergency that takes place, and we got to use the money, or something comes up that we said we got to use the money. This is what I want to tell you. Here's how you avoid that. Make sure you have a fully funded emergency fund. If you have a fully funded emergency fund and you have that fully funded emergency fund for 10 or 15 years, you should never have to touch your investments. You should you should invest for a long, long time without ever having to touch your investments and letting it grow. So that means, guys, that before you put 20% of your money that you bring home every 2 weeks, before you put 20% into investments, make sure you have some money put aside for emergencies, right? That way, if something comes up, all 4 tires go out of all 3 of your cars for some odd reason, you was trailing each other and you went over a bed of nails out in the dirt and the gravel, and you got 12 flat tires and you got to go spend $5,000, $4,000 on some tires. You don't have to go in and touch the money you've been investing. There's nothing wrong with it if you want to touch it, your choice, right? But in my opinion, you should have some emergency money where you can go grab that $4,000 out of your high yield savings account, right? So you're actually gaining some money, high yield savings account. Grab it from there so you can keep your money growing for you and you don't have to touch the money, right? What happens to a lot of people is they invest money they can't afford to lose. And then when they need money for another reason, they have no money other than what they've invested, right? So we got to be really, let me get a better angle on that light. There we go. So we got to be really careful about that, guys, as regular investors, making sure that we're not over investing the money that we don't have. Okay. That's really important. Let me get a little angle on that. So that's one of I got like 7 things in terms of investing money, 7 things I always try to help people and help them understand. But that's one of them, is make sure you always invest money that you can afford to lose, right? You can afford to lose that money. There we go. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go back to the chat real quick, guys. Levi from Namibia. Glad to have. We get them all over the world, guys. I really enjoy and appreciate that. Let's see here. Call stock is doing horrible. Lost $918. I'm waiting for her to come back. Okay. Let's see the man. Boom, boom, boom. Yes, absolutely. Cole's in the house. Okay. Des Moines, Iowa's here, and Trinidad Tobago's in the house. Good to have you. Hey, big up to you, Sam. Good to have you here. Glad you checked in with us. So another one. Let me give you number 7. Number 7 is oftentimes when we invest money, we just jump into it and we have no goals. Or I should say, we have no clear goals. We have no end game. We're just investing. We don't really have a goal. We're just throwing money out there, throwing it at the fan and seeing what happens. When you invest, have some goals. When you invest, doesn't have to be complicated goals. Your goal could just simply be, I want to make sure that I start to invest 5% of my money every single paycheck. Or I want to make sure I fully fund a Roth IRA by November 30th. Simple. Just don't complicate this thing. It does not have to be complicated. I guarantee you. Listen, if you're listening to me and you are a firefighter, you're a police officer, you're a nurse, you're a chef, you're a school teacher, you're a regular person with a regular job. If you can learn your regular job and you can get a certificate for cybersecurity, or you can get a teaching degree, or you can get you name it. If you can do that, you can invest and win with money. You don't have to be a financial advisor to win with money, right? Keep it simple. Make goals. And listen, let me just be clear about goals for a second, right? I got to stress this, guys. Bear with me. When you make an investment goal, make sure you, underneath that goal that's written, you have some action steps, things that you do to reach the goal. Don't just create a goal. That's empty. You got to actually create. Listen, creating a goal is like bringing me a glass. I ask for water and you bring me a glass. It don't mean nothing. I want water, right? So when I ask for water and you bring me an empty glass, that's nothing. That's a goal. The goal is the empty glass. The action steps is the water. The action steps is your responsibility of daily duties to reach the goal. The water is what's important, right? Right? So I want the glass and I want water in the glass. Speaking of water in the glass, I want water in the glass, not just the glass. So a goal is one thing. Action steps is the other thing. That's the piece that matters more than anything. You got to have the action steps. So for every goal, investing goal you write down 2 or 3 things, 3 or 4 things you're going to do every day or every week or every 2 weeks to reach that goal. Otherwise, it don't mean nothing, right? But you got to have clear-cut investing goals. And most people, let's be honest, guys. Most people don't have written down goals for life, for anything, for life, for health, for spiritual, for money. People just don't practice the simple thing of writing down goals and putting the goals and action steps somewhere where you can see them. Screensaver on your laptop, screensaver or whatever you call, background on your phone, cell phone, right? Poster board on your wall, taped up to your refrigerator, right? You got to get serious about investing goals and they got to be specific and they got to have action steps associated with them. Number 8. I'm going to get to a few questions, guys, if you have a few questions. But this is all about investing. 8 mistakes that regular people like us, me and you, regular folks, these are things we make a mistake on, right? So, okay, before I get to number 8, let me see what else we got in the chat here. I like to check the chat, guys. Somebody says, yo, Unc, WSG. Not sure what that means. Hey, Christian Hughes checking in from Bama. Appreciate you being here. Joe from Nashville. Appreciate you being here as well. Gary, got a question. Do you use the Charles Schwab app to invest? I know you're old school, but I'm trying to use a reputable digital platform when I'm ready to invest. Gary, great question. I appreciate you asking that. I don't use apps to invest. Okay. I'm just telling you point blank. Yes, you're right. I am old school. I use platforms, but I don't use apps to invest. And if you use apps to invest, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a good idea. If that's the best thing, you use whatever's best for you. Always remember, guys, personal finance is personal, right? You don't have to tailor it the way I do it. You do it what's best for you. So if you use apps, cool. I don't use the Charles Schwab. If anybody, you know what? Let's do this. In the chat section, guys, do me a favor and name a few apps that you guys use for your investing. Right? Whether it's Robinhood, whatever it may be. Drop that in the comment to help out this question because I want to help Gary out. I always say, guys, I got some really, really intelligent, smart people that watch my videos. And a lot of times in the chat section, there's typically a lot of good stuff in the chat that you can learn from. So do me a favor for Gary, Drop that in the chat. What apps do you use to invest? Because I don't use an app, right? I'm a Vanguard person, but I've heard great things about Fidelity and Charles Schwab as well, but not the apps necessarily. So you guys can help me answer that question for Gary. I appreciate that question, guys. You see, Joseph from Nashville. Appreciate you being here. Is Ford stock a good company? Ford is not a bad company, right? It's not really a growth company. It's more of those one of those value type companies. But you have to do your research on Ford. I've owned two Fords. I own two Fords in my life. I'm a Toyota guy. I actually own Toyota stock. Let's see here. Ford is reputable. Yeah, it's a blue chip. It's a blue chipper. Let's see here. Makes sense. Appreciate it. Greetings from Germany. Oliver, good to have you from Germany all the way. Fidelity and Vanguard. Yep. Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, and Merrill Lynch. I appreciate you taking the time to answer my question. You got it, Gary. Hopefully this Stash is a great one for me. Somebody said. Tony's always in here. Good to have you, Tony. Tony says Stash is a great one that he uses. Let's see. Somebody uses Schwab. We got Schwab. Schwab is big, right? Let's see here. Boom. Found another troll that I have to kick out of here, guys. So, yeah, always got to get those trolls. Moo. Heard some good things about Moo. Moo actually reached out to me to maybe endorse them, guys, and I haven't endorsed them yet because I haven't used them. But Moo might be a good one. M1 Finance, I heard some good things about that. My internet friend, Mommy Trader, go to her channel. I think she uses M1 as well. Hey, Bless, good to have you here. All right, we'll do. We'll check that email for you. Vanguard, my IRA is from Schwab. Excellent, fantastic. Okay, so we got some folks chiming in with the platforms they use. Appreciate that. E-Trade is good too. Yep, heard some good things about E-Trade. Here's what I always say about platforms and apps. Go to them, check them out, thumb through them, see what you like and what you don't like, and then make a decision, right? Because you got to do what's comfortable for you. So always go check them out, do some reviews and see what they offer that's different, right? And then go for it from there. So great question. I'm glad we could answer that for you. Let's see here. So let's go to another one. Another mistake that a lot of us regular investors have and do is a big one. This is a big one. This is really big. This might be number one, but this is a big one, guys. A lot of regular investors, they tend to either delay investing or they invest too little. Okay. In other words, instead of putting 10% and stretching ourselves a little bit, some people will say, I only want to get the company match and get the 3% match for the company instead of stretching themselves. If you ask any 65-year-old person, 60, 65, 55-year-old person, an older person, what mistake they made, what would you do different? 90% of them all say the same thing. They say, I wish I had invested more money. I wish I had stretched myself, made some more sacrifices, and invested more money. You ask people who have a 30-year mortgage, and if you ask them, what do you wish you would have done differently, right? Because over the last 5 or 6 years, this is how I utilize my social media platforms. I ask polls and I have questions and things that I send out to hundreds and hundreds of people. When you ask people those questions, they always say, a lot of them, 90% of them, I would say the same thing. I wish I had done more sooner. I wish I had put my house on a 15-year mortgage, or I wish I had paid extra on my house to pay it off sooner. Or I wish I had put 10%. I wish I had maxed out my 401k instead of just putting 3 or 4%. And that's a mistake that I've made, right? I talk about my mistakes on here all the time, guys, because I talk about them so to help you avoid them, right? So one of the mistakes that I've made with investing is for many years, I only put 3 to 5% of my money towards my 401k or thrift savings plan, whichever you want to call it, right? I only put 3 to 5% when I should have. I had an opportunity I thought about it back in 2002 to max out my 401k or max out my job's retirement plan. Didn't do it. To this day, I would have double the amount of money I had if I had done that. Probably double, maybe even triple, almost triple of what I have invested had I done that and followed that for the last 20 years. I didn't do it. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. They don't stretch themselves. Now, in order to stretch yourself now, what do you got to do? You got to sacrifice right now, right? Maybe you can't go on some of the vacations you want to go on. Maybe you can't go to Greece this year. Maybe you can't go to Abu Dhabi or whatever it is, right? Dubai, right? Maybe you can't go on the big vacation, right? Maybe you can still enjoy life, right? I'm not telling you don't enjoy life, but maybe you have to sacrifice so you can invest more money into an asset that's going up in value, the stock market, right? Sometimes that's all it takes to have a whole lot more money. A little more sacrifice today to have more money tomorrow. A lot of people sit on the sidelines of investing and they miss out on so much growth, right? Some people are just great talkers. They're always talking about what they're going to do, right? Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. Oh, I was going to do this. Yeah, I'm going to get into real estate. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm about to start my own business. And they're very, very good talkers. Horrible doers. Disgraceful, shameful doers, but they talk a good game, right? We all know people like that, right? And people that just sit on the, we also know these people, right? We know people that instead of investing too little, they're scared to invest any money at all. They're frightened of the stock market. They're frightened of ETFs and index funds, right? We know people like that. Just scared. Keep all their money under their mattress or at the local bank down the street, earning about 0.005%. Losing money. We know people that don't realize that you're risking your money when you put it in the bank. That's taking a bigger risk than investing it in the stock market. Why? Because inflation. You put money in the local bank down the street because you want to be close to your money and you're not really sure. You do that. Guess what? It gains 0.005%, but inflation was 2.5%. You lost money. That's a risk. Everything regarding investing is a risk. The things you do and the things you don't do. The things you think are not risky are risky, right? And a solid, regular investor always evaluates risk on every investment. Everything comes with a risk, right? You got to measure that and you got to mitigate it and you got to try to avoid it if you can. You can't always avoid risk, but you can always manage it, prepare for it, right? Mitigate it, make it smaller, right? You can do things to help you manage and cope with the risk. But you face a bigger risk by putting your money in a savings account than you face by investing your money. The chances the S&P that the S&P 500, let's say you invest in the S&P 500 as an index fund or an ETF. If you get an ETF that's the S&P 500, the chances of that going down in 10 years, over the course of 10 years, and you losing money over the course of 10 years is almost zero. It's not quite zero, but it's almost zero. That the stock market 10 years from now will be lower than it is today. The chances are almost zero, folks. But the chances of you putting money in a savings account and inflation happening and your money being worth less the next year, the chances are almost 100% that is going to happen, right? The problem with regular investors is we don't understand how to read risk. We're never taught how to read and understand risk. And so we think it's safer to have money at the bank down the street, right? But you risk your money much more by playing it safe. As opposed to, you could have put that, listen, you put $1,000 down the street in the bank in 10 years, your $1,000 is now worth in the marketplace $800, right? But if you put $1,000 in the stock market in 10 years, your $1,000 now $2,000, $2,500. Let's call it $2,500, right? So you can have $800 or you can have $2,500. You misread risk, right? So don't delay investing, I always tell people this. Please, whatever you do, if your job offers a match, get the match. Get the match, right? But you don't want to be investing a bunch of money when you have a bunch of debt. Always get the match on your job, right? But I don't want you investing a whole bunch of money and you haven't taken care of your firm foundation with money, which is emergency fund, paying off some debt, right? So, so my point is get the match. Don't max out until you get all that other stuff taken care of. Because listen, here's the deal. If you got $20,000 worth of debt, but so let's say it like this. If you invest $20,000, but you got $20,000 worth of debt, do you really have $20,000 invested? I don't know. Something to think about. You got $100,000 invested in the stock market. Yay, you got $100,000. Looks good, right? Looks good on paper. But you owe $100,000. You got 3 cars that are brand new, and you got $10,000 worth of student loans, and you owe $100,000, but you got $100,000 in invested. Do you really have that $100,000 invested? You got to answer that question, right? In my opinion, no, you don't. You got $100,000 invested, but you owe $100,000 on student loans. You don't really have $100,000. It just looks like you have $100,000 because you still owe $100,000. So my thing is this: I want you to invest, and I want you to, don't sit on the sidelines and put your money. And I don't want you to be scared. And I want you to get in the market, but I don't want you to be disillusioned, right? I want you to get the match at your job, but I want you to make sure that you're taking care of business first. And we always talk about on this channel the 4 walls, right? What are the 4 walls? The 4 walls is making sure you have an emergency fund and making sure in case something goes wrong, because something will go wrong, and making sure that you pay down your debts on things that go down in value, right? I'm not so much worried about the house, the rental property, because those things will typically go up in value. Not always, but typically they'll go up in value. I'm not worried about you paying the debt on those. I'm worried about you paying the debt on your credit card. I'm worried about you paying the debt on your student loans. I'm worried about you paying the debt on the car that is going down in value. That's the debt that kills you because it's stuff that's going down in value, right? So a lot of us regular investors, we delay investing. We wait. We chill. Sometimes we're sitting on the sidelines because we're doing what I'm talking about. We're doing some of the other things before we jump in with both feet. But I want you to get rid of some of that other stuff so you can jump in with both feet as soon as possible. And remember, don't time the market, time in the market. That's why I still want you to even though you're trying to get out of debt and trying to get your emergency fund, I still want you to go ahead and get the company match at your job if they offer a match, because that's free money. Now listen, you may have a job that don't offer a match. Instead of getting the match, then maybe you ought to go ahead and open up your own brokerage account and put 2, 3, 4% of your money in the bank, 5% of your money in the bank, invested in the stock market, right? Let's see here. Let's go back, guys. You got a question for me? Put a Q in there. I'll try to answer it for you. Let me just run through some of these things here. Miss Reynolds, you missed the live yesterday, but I'm glad you're here today. Thanks for showing up and being here. I appreciate your support. Let's see here. Just started packing away 30% minimum each month. Woo! So Jake Schuff is killing the game with investments. Full match in the 401k and the Roth IRA and BTSAX. BTSAX. That's total stock market, I think, a Vanguard. Let's see. Young people are throwing away their retirement for DoorDash, Dodge Challengers, and concert tickets. You are so right about that, Jake. Absolutely. And congratulations to you. Somebody said, talk to advisor at a local bank to get CDs outside of a bank. Okay. If you want to do CDs, I'm not mad at you. Stick to a 2-fund portfolio, VTI and BND, or 1-fund mutual, VT. Keep it simple, folks. Yes, please keep it simple. If you really, really love the stock market and you just love sitting around with 4 monitors in front of you, monitoring the trends and so forth that's going on a daily and a moment's basis, and you're trading throughout the day and trading your ETFs throughout the day. If you're all into that, cool. I'm not mad at you, right? For me, it's just not something I like to do. But again, personal finance is personal. If you enjoy it, I'm happy for you. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. Let's see here. Got to get somebody else out of there who's talking mess. We like to get the trolls out of the chat, guys. And so if you see a troll, let me know. Alert me to them. We like to get them out of the chat. Sometimes you get them in here. And those guys, when you're looking through the comment section, you'll see a lot of scammers, guys. Be really careful. Sometimes somebody told me, I got an email the other day ago, somebody said, hey, I've been communicating with somebody on WhatsApp. I thought it was you. No, I'm not communicating with you on WhatsApp. I'm not going to ask you to invest in something. I'm not going to ask you any of that. That's scammers, guys. No, don't fall for it. Right? I'm never going to do that. Now I do answer some of my comments in my videos, but no, don't fall for it, guys. Be very careful. These scammers are relentless out here. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through here, guys. Stick to it, too fun. Got that already. My friend in Iowa doesn't believe me when I say that his savings account is risky because it has guaranteed negative rate of return. Yes, guaranteed. I like the way you put that. Guaranteed negative rate of return is what a savings account typically is. Absolutely. Let's see. I blew my money. Just keep a 6-month emergency fund in savings or a no penalty CD, invest everything else. Absolutely, Jake. I like to say it doesn't have to be 6 months. It can be 3 or 4 months, right? It doesn't have to be a full 6 months. And I like to say 6 months of your needs, not necessarily 6 months of the things that you want to do, right? But 6 months of needs and however you want to do it. Some people say just in general. Most people I see put their money into the lottery. That's not a good thing, right? Lottery is like a tax on the poor. Don't tell people what to do, right? I owe 53, boom. Let's see here. Genius. My strategy is simple. 1 to 2 fund portfolio, Roth, real estate, put some cash in a CD. Very simple. I like that. You can build wealth with a simple portfolio. Let's see here. You have that money invested, but it doesn't add to your net worth. Investments add to your net worth. Absolutely. Sorry to hear that you had to file for bankruptcy, Marcos. That means you got to change your habits, but let's see. What if you need your 401k? If you're at the point where you start needing money out of your 401k, that's okay to start withdrawing, right? If you're before 59 and a half, you're going to pay a penalty though. Watch out for that penalty. Now, I did an investment. There's a rule of 55 out there. Keep in mind the rule of 55, where you can actually pull money from your 401k before you reach age 59 and a half without paying that 10% penalty fee. Keep that in mind. That's out there. It's called, and you can Google it, guys, the rule of 55, right? It's an IRS provision that was put in there in the 1980s. Let's see here. Just going through and seeing what we got. Set it and forget it. Miss Reynolds, absolutely, right? Most people don't want to just be all super intense with it, and so you got to set it and forget it. I appreciate you saying that. Let's see here. Okay. Boom. All right. We got to get somebody else out of the chat. All right. Treat your money like a... Okay. Somebody said then as a sure portfolio does make more. Okay. Invest the rest. Yes. And I like what you guys are saying in the chat. What are you are saying? Give me your testimonies and things you've done. Excellent. Excellent. The kicker is, guys, we are regular investors. We are not fancy. We are not some people we're not institutional. We're just regular Joe Schmoes. Right? Or what's the female version of a Joe Schmo? We're just regular people that want to grow our money. That's what the channel is all about, guys. This channel is not for the super duper savvy investor who's got $10 million. You can watch. You're welcome to be here. But this is the basics, right? And I try to keep it as basic as possible because I know there are studies that say that 20% of all investors in America right now just started investing about 5 years ago. 20% of all investors just started 5 years ago. So that tells me that a lot of people are brand new to investing, guys. And a lot of times when you're brand new, you just need the basics, right? You don't need all the fancy stuff. Guys, listen, I forgot to say it, but I need you to do it. Smash the like button for me, right? Hit the like button for me. Gets this information out to more and more people. I certainly appreciate it. 5 minutes after I end, you're going to see a bunch of free stuff in the description box below. 24 laws of money. The 24 laws of money that help me build wealth along the way. Those are principles that you can, it's a free ebook. Free. Also, I partnered with this video with Mint Mobile. Check out their, in the description box below, there'll be a link to Mint Mobile as well. So let me see what else we got. What's the stocks invest in right now? Bro, Marcos, keep it simple. I'm a simple S&P guy. Don't get me wrong. I like my technology, right? I like my MGK over at Vanguard. I like my dividends, VYM over at Vanguard. I like my VOO over at Vanguard. I like my VTSAX, total or VTI, total stock market at Vanguard. Those are some of the ones I enjoy and like. Those are ETFs or index funds. Individual stocks, I mean, I don't have a lot of individual stocks. I got a few little things here and there, but not much, right? And in terms of individual stocks, I like to invest in things that I believe in and use on a regular basis, right? So I'm a guy that has like natural grocers. I have Toyota stock, right? Those are things that I use on a regular basis. Let's see here. What should I do with my 10K that I've available and to invest conservatively? 10K, you cannot beat. What is it? SCHD if you're over on Charles Schwab. If you're over on Vanguard, VOO. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, right? QQQ, keep it simple. VTI, keep it simple, all right? Let's see. I invested in my PM. Boom, boom, boom. Will Bitcoin go up to 100,000? I don't know. I don't know. As you guys know, I'm not a big Bitcoin guy on this channel, right? I'm not mad at Bitcoin, but I'm just not big invested in them. Somebody says my renters paid off my mortgage one rental at a time. I like that. Takes time, but self-made retirement. Yes, good for you. Congratulations on that, Keith. Let's see. Somebody said money is like soldiers. Treat your money like soldiers. Put them to work. Absolutely. Hey, the whole point of money is this, guys. This is big. I'm glad you brought that up. The whole point of money is this. You got to be a flipper. Anybody know what a flipper is with money? You got to be a flipper with money. Okay. What do we know about money? Money goes down in value. Right? Right? If I had a $100 bill on me, I'll show you that $100 bill, guys. Money goes down in value. Your whole job with money, if you want to grow money and be a successful investor, your whole job, you got 2 or 3 jobs, but one of your most important jobs is this. When you get money, you have to take that money and you have to flip it. What do I mean by flip it? You got to take that money that's going down in value because of inflation, and you have to immediately flip that money into something going up in value as fast as possible. And the more money that you do that with, the more money you will have down the road. Most people don't understand that simple concept of taking money and flipping it as soon as possible. This is why before you see your check, you should be investing some money from that check, right? You don't want to get it, hold on to it, keep it for a while, keep a $100 bill for a while. No, because that $100 bill is losing money every moment that you have it in your hand. You should be taking that money and flipping it as soon as possible to something that's going up in value, like the stock market, ETFs, index funds, like real estate, right? That's what you want to do with money. You don't want to keep money and take it and go put it in a coffin. You know what the coffin is? That's the bank down the street. Because you kill money if you don't flip the money. You might as well be throwing the money out the window, a dime at a time. Driving down the highway, throwing a dime at a time out the money, as long as you hold that money in your hand. You're killing it. Money is currency. What do we know about currency? Currency does what? It flows. Money is supposed to flow. One of the main purposes of money, I said one of the main purposes of money is to make more money. Right? If you're not taking the money and making more money, you're killing money because you're not allowing it to act in its natural capacity as currency. You cut it off. You no longer let it flow. Right? Currency, money is supposed to flow from here to here, flowing, right? And when you don't let it flow and you go take this money and you go buy anything that's going down in value, you kill the money. When you take your $10,000 and you go buy let's not say 10,000. Let's say you take $1,000 and you go buy 3 pair of shoes, 4 dresses, a suit. You killed the money. The money is now the suit. The suit today is worth $1,000. The suit in 2 years will be worth $500. In 3 years, it'll be worth $50. You killed the money because you stopped it from flowing like currency, like it's supposed to be. But guess what? If you take the money and you put it into something going up in value, as I said before, now it's flowing. The money is flowing. And what happens to currency when it flows? When it flows, it grows, right? Most people miss that. Most regular investors, we don't understand that. And so you know what happens? We start putting 3% of our money towards our 401k. Just 3%, right? We start putting 4% of our money towards 4. I can't afford to do much more than that. No, that's it right here. I'm a little nervous about that. I'm scared about the stock market. We kill money. We're in the habit of killing money, destroying money. And we think we're being safe and we're playing it safe and we're making sure. You just making sure you don't have money down the road. That's what you're doing. Somebody said it before. You're guaranteeing the loss of money. Your main job with money is to take this money and flip it to more money. And you can only do that if you take the money and invest it immediately into something going up in value. Really important lesson there, guys. See, money wants to work. Money is supposed to work. Money is currency, right? Currency. Listen, I'm not going to hold you guys. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you spending some time with me on this Sunday. I appreciate you smashing the like button. I appreciate you guys more than you know. This channel wouldn't be this channel if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for your participation, your watching videos. Listen, I just put out a video today. What's the name of the video I put out today? I want you guys to all do me a favor and check out the video that I just released. It's a short video. It's a video that says if you have $0 left over at the end of the month, you got 3 options. That's it. Listen, it ain't complicated. You got 3 options if you don't have no money. I get people every day to tell me, I don't have any money left over. How can I do this without no money? If you don't have money, you got options. Still got options, right? You got 3. Put out a video about an hour ago talking about those 3 options. Check that video out. Give me a thumbs up on that video and let me know in the comment section how you like that video. Listen, let's see. Best ETFs to consider, VTI, BOO, BYM. Guys, if you're watching this on replay, rewind it back to the beginning. I gave you 8 investing mistakes that regular, average, everyday people like us tend to make and how to not make them, how to avoid them. Because I don't want to just tell you what not to do. I want to tell you what to do so I can give you some solutions instead of just giving you problems. All right? Appreciate you being here, guys. As always, thank you so much. Thank you. Shout out to Christian Bowie for being here today. I appreciate you more than you know. And listen, I always say this at the end of every broadcast because I mean it sincerely. The best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you. Guys, take good care of yourself. Take care of other people. And until the next video, peace.